Today, I'm Assemblywoman Megan Dahle, representing the 1st Assembly District, which encompasses the northeastern corner of our great state, 9 counties, and 25,000 square miles. I hope everyone who is watching is well and safe. I know it's hard to stay positive and think about the future and how life will continue as normal after this pandemic. That's why I wanted to start highlighting the great work that's happening throughout AD1 and talk with individuals that are helping in different members of our communities. Today, we're joined by Andy Ryback and Joe Egan on behalf of Plumas Bank, an independently owned and locally managed bank providing financial services across Northern California and Northern Nevada. Plumas Bank operates 13 branches, 3 commercial and ag loan production offices. They're a preferred lender with the U.S. Small Business Administration and recognized among the top community banks in the nation. Congratulations. Andy is president and CEO of Plumas Bank, headquartered in Quincy, California, and represents a perspective of community banks across 9 Western states to the Federal Reserve Board in Washington, D.C. Thank you for joining us. And Joe Egan is senior vice president and manager of the ag lending. Joe is a friend as well. We've known each other for 20 years. Joe is based in Susanville and has been part of our local ag business community on behalf of Plumas for 21 years. Joe and Andy are here to answer important questions that we are continuously getting from constituents, small business owners, and employees of them as well during this time. And we're just going to ask some questions and do a little question and answer. So thank you both very much for coming today and taking time out of what is, I know, a very busy schedule right now. So we'll start with Joe. What are you seeing in terms of challenges to local ag business because of the pandemic and economic shutdown?
Sure, and thank you for having us on today, Megan. I appreciate it. Thanks for that warm welcome. As far as the impacts for the agricultural businesses, and I guess one point that I'd like to make is that we kind of lump agriculture into one big bucket, and the reality is it's dozens, if not nationwide, hundreds of different industries, all impacted differently throughout this crisis. But I would say, generally speaking, in our area on the production side of things, there have not been many impacts. In other words, the field work is getting done, calves are getting branded, irrigation starting, all that sort of thing. The major impacts are on the market side of things, and those have been quite severe in some instances. And for example, on the livestock end of things, or the cow-calf producers, which we finance quite a bit of in this area, to give you an example of the magnitude and change in prices, a feeder calf that was scheduled for sale in May of this year, in January, the anticipated price per pound of that calf was $1.48. Today it's $1.06. So it's almost a 40% drop in the top line income. So very severe impacts, and there's other impacts for other industries along those same lines of magnitude.
Wow. So Andy, I'm going to start with you on this question, then have Joe add maybe the local perspective. But what is Plumas Bank doing for the farmers and ranchers throughout northeastern California?
Well, Megan, the viability of our clients and their agribusinesses is a top priority for Plumas Bank. Agriculture has been a big component of our bank ever since we started 40 years ago. And actually, we're celebrating our 40th year later this December. These farms have been, these businesses have been in their families for generations, and we want to do everything we can to make sure that they survive this economic downturn that we are in. We're closely monitoring all the federal programs, making sure that we make resources available that are being rolled out as we speak. There's still programs that are officially open, but the rules still really haven't come out of Washington, D.C. yet, so they're a little bit behind in getting that information to the banks. But we're shifting all of our resources, trying to get those programs up and running, and making sure that our businesses have access to those programs to keep them moving, including it's been heard about a lot, the Payroll Protection Program, or PPP. That's a program that we've embraced and making a lot of loans on right now.
So Joe, on the, like a local, Susanville branch, maybe what's the amount of loans that you're seeing come in specifically, for the payroll protection program? Or I'm assuming you guys are working quite a bit right now.
Sure. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't know that we've had time to stop and count all the applications that have come in for the PPP program. It's been overwhelming. And I don't have that number for you, but suffice it to say, most businesses qualify and most are applying for it. Probably a little less on the ag side because it is geared strictly toward payroll, and we do finance a lot of family operations where they really don't have employees. Technically, it's family members or partners that are doing the work. But we do have a fair amount of ag operations, applying for that program, as well as all kinds of other businesses that are.
Mm-hmm. So Joe, what is different about Plumas Ag Banking than other lenders?
Sure. So I think a lot of things, but maybe let me key in on a couple that I think are really important and really help us to be flexible and nimble in times like these. And the first one is that we have all of our decision making is done locally. So in other words, if you come in and apply for an ag loan, either I approve it or Andy approves it or the local loan committee. So we're able to be a little more flexible in our products that way because we can make the decisions a little quicker. And then the other thing is that we have a well-seasoned team of ag lenders that work for me, and they're not only professionals in banking, but they also have very strong ties to agriculture and are very knowledgeable about all the programs that are available, the commodities that we finance, and that business in general.
Yes, you guys, well, you're a great bank and very community oriented, which is so important right now in these times. You see a lot of people talking about communities pulling together and what we are doing for one another, and banking. It's something we just kind of all do. We walk in and make our deposits, but we don't necessarily think about, and especially right now in this time, the level, hearing about it nationally, how this is going to be funded, the trillions of dollars that are going to be put, back into our or try to keep our economy going. So Andy, on that, what are you seeing on a national level, and how people have a lot of questions about how the money will actually get, even to your bank and then from you down to your customers?
Yeah, well, as far as the numbers as related to the PPP program that Joe had referenced earlier, we don't have the breakdown by branch, but overall, just over this weekend, I think we're up to about 38 million of funds designated to our local communities, primarily here in northeastern California and northern Nevada. And that's well over 200 loans originating in the last week alone. We anticipate funding over 100 million through this program for our communities. So putting that money to work, helping our businesses keep their employees, and we're also preparing for programs to develop loans that will help businesses reopen their doors.
Mm-hmm.
From a national level, the federal, the government is pulling out all the stops. They're throwing everything they can at making sure small businesses stay in place and employees stay employed with these small businesses. And we're a key piece of that whole equation. But there's a lot of banks in your district, so we're just one of many.
So you mentioned preparing for, so that's my next question, is that as we can almost predict an upcoming recession, what are some other ways that people can be preparing along with the banks for what's coming next? Andy?
I don't know, Joe, if you want to take that to start, or if you want me to go?
Either go ahead, Andy.
Okay. Well, as far as the expectations of this recession, it's right now the conventional wisdom is that we're going to have a really bad second quarter. I mean, there's going to be a lot more unemployment. We're going to see those numbers spike up, and the expectation right now is that in the third quarter we'll see a rebound with some growth expected in the fourth quarter. But there's a lot of variables here. This is this is a unique incident. We don't really have any previous recessions to kind of gauge off of the impacts here. We're just seeing across many sectors of businesses being impacted, and how quickly we can get those businesses back up and running and those people employed. On the good news front, we were going into this with a pretty good expansion. We had over a 10-year expansion, and that has resulted in really strong numbers for the economy, the lowest unemployment in decades. So we went into this very strong. The banks are very strong. So we got some really good strength to get us through this, but it's a difficult recession. It's really hard to know how long it will go.
So as we move forward to kind of prepare for the new normal, are people still reaching out to you for loans? How would they get a hold of you? I know you're touching base with your customers, your long-term customers personally, which I think is great. But are your doors open? I know Chase went to make a deposit last week for me, and he stood in line, and then with the appropriate number of people, he was let in to make his deposit at the Fall River branch. So how can they get a hold of you? And I think the big thing, I'll let Joe answer this, but I think the big thing, it seems daunting to a small business owner who maybe has 1 or 2 employees, and they feel like this application process is going to be really burdensome. Can you kind of touch on that, Joe? Like how, for the payroll protection specifically, what is the process for that?
Sure. And just to address, quickly as far as access to lenders, and yes, we are completely open, although sometimes our doors are locked and we're limiting, the people in our lobby. We still are actively engaged in lending on a normal basis, and even more so, with some of the issues that have come up with this. Specifically with regard to the PPP program, I would encourage anybody to contact whoever their primary bank is, and whatever that contact is. At Plumas Bank, that might be the branch manager at the local branch, that might be me on the agricultural side. And then, electronically we can transmit the forms for you to fill out. It's actually, it does seem daunting when you first look at the SBA application, but it's a relatively easy process, and the information to gather is usually easy for most people's accountants to compile, and they've done enough of them now that they know exactly what we're looking for. So if you have a relationship with an accountant, they've been real good at providing that information.
And that's very helpful. So I want to give both of you an opportunity for any final comments, and just so that we make sure that everyone knows plumasbank.com, how to get a hold of you. So Andy, I'll let you start.
Yeah, as Joe said, our branches are open. The process has changed, but we're there to serve and make sure that our clients and our teams are safe. There's all kinds of online tools to access Plumas Bank, and again, you mentioned it. Thank you, plumasbank.com. You can access us through that. You can call us. We actually have live people answering phones, and as far as Plumas Bank goes, again, we're celebrating our 40th year, and we're going to be helping our communities, and we're here for good.
Thank you. Joe, do you have any final comments?
Sure, you bet. I would just say one thing that, I think we all, or Andy and I, recognize that banking and finance is just one of a multitude of challenges that business owners face, whether it's agriculture or other businesses. And we're here to try to provide those banking solutions with as little friction as possible, so business owners can focus on the other areas of their business that obviously need attention during these times. And so don't ever hesitate to contact us to help you through that.
Well, thank you both so much for joining us today. And I hope that you've learned some helpful information, and trying our best to protect ourselves and prepare ourselves and our families for our communities during these uncertain times. So God bless you and your family. Thank you for staying safe. Stay home for a little bit longer, and we're all going to do our best to get back on track. So thank you again for joining me today. Have a great day.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Dahle.